All right, let's get through another one of these studies here. And I kind of looked ahead a little bit and noticed your uh, stage one was perfect, right on the money. So, I mean, no real change that we'll have to make there, but I just want to go through here and just see this was a close this was a close second here. Um, It was very, very close to being one, but I think you're right. There's probably only a little bit of sleep right in here, versus your stage one epics, and then you can see it drops off here, and then kind of stays dropped off, and then a little spindle there. Um, and you marked this one too, and maybe it was because of the spindle back there, but in this epic, you have the arousal, which takes it out, and so all of this is one. And then after this arousal, all of this is one as well. Good arousals, really good arousals. So, but the stage on this is I'm gonna change to one. And then again here, I think you're prematurely calling two. Um, Make sure you remember after your arousal in the previous epic, there's no K complexes or spindles here. So moving forward in this one, still no K complexes or spindles, and then you have an arousal here. This arousal, I think, could even extend to about there. Um, and this would be still stage one. And then again, you're marking two after this arousal. And I think it's a little premature. I don't see any spindles or K complexes here, so just keep an eye out for that in future studies. You really have to see a K complex or spindle before marking stage two after an arousal, um, or coming out of wake. You got to see it above baseline, and there's nothing really above baseline here in this epic, so I'll change this to one. And then the same sort of deal in this one. There's no K complexes or spindles, so I'll switch this to one as well. And then here we have a spindle, and then we have a K complex over here. This is just some artifact. See how it has this reverse kind of look to it, whereas this one, they all kind of go together, up and then down and then up, whereas you have up on this one and down on this one, or a negative deflection and then a positive deflection. So that looks more like artifact and an eye movement than an actual K complex. So K complexes, you can also see in the eyes, but they'll also be a negative deflection, which we have here, and a negative deflection, which we have here. So they're not opposite from each other. That's something you can tell the difference with when trying to figure out if it's artifact or not. Um, Nonetheless, this is stage two. Two, good arousal. Two, I'm just measuring a little bit, but it's kind of pointless. And then back to one after that arousal. Good job with that. And then we have a K complex and then a spindle after that. So this one will be two, which you did mark, with an arousal, which is correct. Now drop this back to stage one again, because all of this is stage one. That's 13 seconds. And then the only stage two here is going to be 9.5 seconds or so. So we'll drop this to stage one. And then good arousal, I'd probably cut it just a little bit shorter, but that's there. So good job there. And then I would drop this to stage one again. you've got a spindle here, but there's nothing really going on after the arousal, so we'll keep this in 1. I'm not sure if this is what you're seeing as maybe a K complex, but I think you're looking too closely. And remember, K complexes have to go above baseline and below baseline. And this one, it goes above baseline, but then kind of drops back down just to baseline, doesn't go to below baseline, you know? So this will be 1, and it's kind of small versus this patient's normal K complexes, which kind of look like this. They really go below baseline, and especially in the F4 channel, you can see that dip that just kind of dips right down in there for your K complex. And another one, I think right here, maybe that would be a smaller one, but it still goes below baseline. And then for this one here, it really is visible. Even when I decrease, you can just see how far above baseline a K complex goes, and then how far below baseline. I mean, I'm way zoomed out right now, so it really shows how far above baseline it is, and then that spindle is also above baseline. You can just really see it. So you don't have to go searching for K complexes or spindles. Usually they're just right in front of your face. So we'll keep on going here. We'll change this to 1. And then same here, you have this as 1, so good job there. And then 2 with the spindle here. And then you marked an arousal here. Let's see, this is about only 2.5 seconds because this is a K complex and then maybe some spindle-ish activity. If you're looking in the O channels, that's kind of how, it's kind of where I see it, and it's only really there in the O1 channel, and maybe there for the O2 channel. So I just don't think it's long enough. 2, 2, 2. Again here with this is spindle activity mixed with a K complex, I think. Not a real arousal. It's if you look at the frequency of these brainwaves and the frequency of spindles, like they're the same. So I think this is actually a spindle and a K complex mixed together. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And then this is not an arousal. This is just a little spindle right here. Again, I think it's mixed with a K complex. If we zoom out again, you can kind of see the K complex here up and then down and then up and down, and the spindle right before it. And there we are for an arousal. And then you kept it in 2. Let's see here. This is going to be a measurable one. We have 3.5 seconds. And then we have, yeah, you're right. That is stage 2. And then no arousal here. This is just a little spindle right here. And then stage 1 mixed frequency kind of stuff happening right here. 2, 2, 2, and no arousal here. 2, and then no arousal here. Seems like you're marking some spindleish activity as arousals in this study. And then no arousal here, just a bunch of K complexes. The frequency has to be higher, not amplitude bigger. So these could be delta waves right in here, trying to get into some stage 3. And this could even be enough for stage 3, 8 seconds, yeah. So this could be, oh, you marked it as stage 3. So that's good. We have stage 3 here, and then back to 2, and then a little arousal. That's probably an arousal. I think I agree with that. It's debatable. And then this I don't think is an arousal here. See how this looks the same as this as far as frequency goes? That's just a spindle standing out above baseline. And I just marked over all of this stuff. Okay, yeah, so we had 3. I think you're right with the 3. I just went right over it. No arousal here. And no arousal here. For the same reasons, just not fast enough frequency. You can still see low amplitude. It's mixed frequency. It's not alpha. It doesn't have the frequency of alpha. So keep this in 3. Uh-oh, there we go. 3. And then 3 for, oh, there's not an arousal there. I'm not entirely sure what you're seeing with those. Yeah, you don't even have any increased frequency, so I think you're just marking arousals after these events. Like maybe you're going back in and marking arousals where you thought maybe you had missed an arousal, um, but there's no arousal there. So you can't base on your can't base your arousals off of chin tone or respiratory events. You base it off of chin tone in REM, but not necessarily in any other stage. So yeah, I think that's probably an arousal. Good job there. I think it probably dipped to 2 here. Not quite enough brain waves. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If this is 0.5 seconds, not quite 0.5 seconds. So this would be stage 2, and then back to 3, 3. It's okay if you score that as 3 though, because our lab kind of clumps scores. Stage 3 clump scoring. And this is from there to there, which is only 2 seconds. So I'm going to delete that. Good arousal. And then I think this drops back to 2 here. And then back up to 3. And no arousal here. This is a K complex. This is 2 K complexes. Big arousal there. Dropping it back to 1. Or 2 with a K complex here. I think you're right. You can argue it. You can argue it. I think that could. I think this could be argued that it's artifact. It could also be argued it's a K complex. It's so close after the arousal. I don't know if they really dropped back into 2 because this is all kind of wavy stuff. But can't argue it with me right now because I am on a video. All right. Good arousal there. I drag it out just a little bit further. You can see the frequency of the brain waves is still quite fuzzy in here, fast. And then I would take this out into stage 1. There's no K complexes or spindles really in this epic. There we go, there's one. Good arousal there. And then back to 1. Again, I don't really think this is an accurate K complex. It doesn't look like this patient's normal K complexes. Then 2, 2, 2, 3. Good. And then wake. Good, good. And then back to 2, good. 2, 2. I don't think this is 3. I'm going to be switching this to 2. Let me see here. Could be 3 actually. Yeah. 3, 3, 3. Let's go back to this here, which I think maybe I overscored some 2 in here that should have been 3, which you had it as 3, so that is good that you had it. A win. A win. I have to go and redo something that I took out of yours. 3, and then wake, and then 2, and then 2, and 2, and 2. And I don't think this is an arousal here. Again, this seems like something maybe you added because of the event. I'm not entirely sure. Let's take a look at the 5-minute window and see. And there's not really an event here either. And same here, there's no real event causing that arousal. There's no decrease in flow. So just be a little bit more stingy with your hypopneas because there's not a whole lot happening right there. And I see overall you can see there's an increase in chin tone right here. But if we go in and see if there's anything, it could be from there to there, which is 4 seconds. I guess there could be an arousal here, but it's a baby one and it's debatable, but I don't think I would score it. I think this is too low amplitude and there's still a lot of mixed frequency going on in here compared to if you comparing it to everything else. It looks very similar. This person's brainwaves aren't the cleanest brainwaves, but that one I definitely would score. And you could even drag this out further, which would change this to 1 actually, because there's no K complexes or spindles in this one. If you can kind of read between the goofy artifact going on there. Yeah, I think there is an arousal there. I think you're right. I'll just drag it out a little bit further. In which case, if I mark this one, I might as well mark the one we had back here, which you had. I think maybe you were onto something. So, and then 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. mark anything here, which is good. I don't really think there's an arousal there. Yep. 1, 2, 2. Yep. And some K complexes. 2, 2. And I think that's an arousal there. Little baby one. Could be that there's an arousal here as well, actually. So this would be 1. And then back to 2 with an arousal here. 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. And we've got potentially an arousal here. I think there is 1, 2, arousal there, 2, an arousal here, good. To 2, 2. And arousal there. And this would be 2, which you have. 2, 2, good arousal. To 1, good staging. 2, 2, 2, 2. I'll just try and keep going until I find something here. Okay. Oh, looks like I missed an arousal right here. Sometimes I notice when there's arousals at the edge of the screen, those are the ones that you miss the most. Sometimes you have to scroll back to see a little bit of what was happening and what caused this. It can be sometimes hard to spot at the beginning or at the end of an epic, but I do think it's still 2 with the spindle there. I think this is wake actually. The only real sleep we have is probably in here, maybe 10 seconds. But overall, the frequency is very fast, so I'd keep this in wake. And same with this one, this is all wake. And then it kind of drops down a little bit, starting here. Goes right into 2, maybe an arousal here. And then 2 again, so we'll keep this in 2. And I don't think that's an arousal, but I do think this is an arousal. There's a little bit of mixed frequency going on in here, so I think really the only thing is there to there, which is about 2.5 seconds. So we will call this 2, which you already have. And I don't think there's an arousal here. Not enough high frequency brainwaves. It is kind of a mess. You do have chin tone, but there's no frequency in brainwaves. There's no high frequency brainwaves going on. So keep in 2. And I don't think this is 3. You only have 1, 2, 3 delta waves maybe. So keep this in 2. Okay. 2, good arousal. Good arousal. And this one actually, I think wake extends all the way to here. So this would be stage wake. If we go back and see the frequency kind of drops off maybe a little bit right here. and then the alpha picks up again right here. So there's a tiny bit of sleep there, and then after that, some more sleep. So I just don't think it's enough to mark stage 2. But I see what you were seeing because this kind of looks like a K complex. However, this doesn't have a negative deflection first. This has a positive deflection and then a negative deflection. So it's kind of like a reverse K complex. And it's not really a K complex. Maybe that will help a little bit. And then we've got, let's see, did I miss something? So considering the fact that this is not a K complex and you marked this 2, and sleep starts here, that would change this next one to stage 1 because we don't have anything until about here, the little K complexes. So we'll call this 1. Sorry, I'm taking a sip of water. And then 2. Yep, and then 2. All right. And then a little arousal here. This one you can just barely see, but it does pick up in frequency. Compare this to this in the frequency. You just have a lot of openness going on in here. A little bit of mixed frequency happening right here. But here it's all quite solid. So 2, little arousal there to change this to 1. And 2, 2. And we're going to extend this arousal to about there. If you use your hand to kind of cover up this section here and kind of see what's going on over on this section here, that would change this to wake then. Good arousal. Nothing there, that's just a bit of artifact. If there's anything, it's right there, and that's 2 seconds. So I'll keep this in 2. Good arousal there. And again, after this arousal, there's no real K complex or spindle really until here. This could be considered a K complex, just based on the F4 channel of it going above baseline and below baseline. Again, here this kind of goes, it doesn't have that negative deflection. It only has the positive deflection and then the negative deflection. So if anything, this could actually be a wee bit of an arousal. So we'll call that stage 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And this is actually an arousal here. We'll call this 1 and 2. And marking that arousal, I just want to look at this event here. So this wouldn't actually, this would be taken out because that happened during wake. Good. And you mark 2 here. I think it drops off somewhere around here into sleep. And then you have that spindle, so good job. And then there's a little arousal there. So we'll call this one 2 still. It might change this one. Yep, so it changes this one to 1. And then 1 again, there's still no K complexes or spindles in this epoch, so call that 1. And that arousal, there's still no K complexes or spindles, maybe until about here. I think the arousal is actually here. These are all like K complexes and or a bunch of chained K complexes, it looks like. And then your high frequency brainwaves are right there. So we'll call this one stage 1. Actually, still 1. There's no K complexes or spindles in this epoch. And then the same here, this is 1, and this is 1, and this is 1 up until there. You got a real nice K complex. So I think you're overstaging some 2 when it should be 1. That's kind of a common theme that I'm seeing. Just make sure that you've good 3. Just kind of make sure that you know there's a K complex or a spindle before marking your stage 2 after arousals and spindles and stuff. And this, I think, drags out till about there. Got the same sort of situation. He has these weird brainwaves going on here. And then this is a bunch of alpha still. So I think it really drops off here. So this would still be wake. I don't know if that's something you can see when I upload things, if it's clear enough, the difference between this side of the epoch and this side of the epoch, as far as frequency and brain waves go, and just the shape and pattern of what's happening with them. But this is something to train your eyes for. Don't get fooled by this shenanigans over here. And good arousal. And we'll see, is this 10 seconds? So just about 10 seconds from there to there. I think this arousal can probably be drawn back a little bit. And this would be 1 good, 2 good. I think there is an arousal here, but it's just in this little section here. If you can see the difference between this and this, there's just the frequency is just a lot faster in this little section than it is in this section, and more consistent. I think the consistency is really the thing with these arousals on this patient. And if we jump out to this view here, it looks like you marked this right over an arousal, which I don't think there's an event there. I also don't think there's an event here. There's just no real change. It has to be at least 30% reduction in flow. And this is something that we were seeing in your previous study, just kind of overmarking hypopneas whenever you see arousals. So just be aware of that while you're doing your staging and scoring. Okay, I think that arousal goes to there. So this would be 2 still. And then this would be wake. Yep. And this is just barely below baseline on each side here. If you have your reference lines up, I don't think I'd mark this as a K complex. doesn't stand out above baseline, so we'll keep this in 1. And then this here, a little arousal, keeping it in 1. And then a little bit of 2 here from there to there, so that would change this to stage 1 as well. And I hope you're understanding why I'm marking these the way I'm marking them. You have stage 1 all the way up until here. So the stage 2 in this epic is 6 seconds, is that? Yeah, and then the rest is 11 seconds of stage 1. So the majority of the sleep in this epic is stage 1, making this stage 1. But I'm pretty sure you understand the rules based on what I'm seeing. This does go above and below baseline, so I'm going to change this to 2. I don't think this is wake. I do think this is wake, as you were. And yeah, good stage 1 on this one. And then, yeah, a little spindle there and a little spindle here. I don't think this is an arousal. We'll call this one stage 2, which you have. 2 with an arousal, which you have. And I think that arousal is just a wee bit shorter, coming in for this K complex here. This might actually be artifact now that I look at it. It's got that reverse look to it, so we keep this in 1. The reverse look meaning these C3 and C4 are going opposite of each other, and F3 and F4 are going opposite of each other. And then I think this arousal, if I were to drag it out, it would go out to about here. So this would be stage 1. You do have some K complexes here for 7.5 seconds, but this is 9.5 seconds, so the majority of this is stage 1. And then a big arousal here, 14.5 seconds. We'll keep this in 1 and 2. And yeah, I think you're onto something there with that arousal. We'll keep that one, but I think this is stage 1 and not stage 2. Jumping the gun a little bit there. And then stage 2 and 2. And another arousal. Another arousal. I don't think this is wake. I do think it is stage 1 though. And then 1 again. And then 2. Arousal, arousal. And you have, let's see here, 10 seconds of stage 2. 2 seconds plus, okay, so 6.5 seconds of stage 1. So we'll call this one stage 2. And we've got 1. After this arousal, no K complexes, no spindles. Keep this in 1. And good arousal, still stage 2, good. 2, good. And this is a spindle here. So for stage 2. And wake, good. Got a little bit of sleep there, but then again, it drops off again there, so not quite enough. And this will be 1. Following up this last epic, had a bit of alpha here, and then it dropped off here to stage 1, and then no K complexes or spindles. So we'll call this 1. And then back to 1 again. I think we're seeing a little similarity here. We got a little bit of sleep, a little bit of stage 1 right in here. And then we've got another arousal if I could mark it. So I think you're right marking this as wake. You are correct. And then more right there, another arousal. So good job marking wake. And then 2, the K complex there, just barely above baseline, barely below baseline. Still there, no arousal here. 2, no arousal. Well, I think the arousal's here. 2, and then this isn't long enough. I need 10 seconds, so I can't mark that one, but we'll keep this in 1, 2, and wake, and wake, wake, and then finally, yeah, nope, this is still wake. And you mark this in 2. Let me go back a little bit. Looks like he dropped off into sleep right around here, maybe. And then he kept sleeping, and I think this, excuse me, is an arousal to there. And then he woke back up again here. So I think this is still wake. And then this is still wake. If I go back here, yeah. Then it drops off here again, so no arousal because it's still wake all the way up until here or here, which would make it wake. And then wake again because all of this is high frequency, so this would be wake. And then falls asleep again here, so this one would also be wake. And then an arousal there for stage 2 with a spindle here, so that's good. No arousal there. And the arousal is here on this one. Keep it in 2, and then 1, and 2. I'm going to delete this arousal and this arousal. It looks like just kind of some nonsense going on, not really a spindle, not really long enough for an arousal. It's just probably right about there. So keep this as, where were we? 2. And then here we have the arousal. That's good. And maybe a spindle here. I could see how that could be a spindle. I'm not sure if it's above baseline enough, but we'll call it 2 for your sake. For a win. And I think that's an arousal there. And then good arousal there. So this would be 1, however, because you have the majority of this epic is stage 1. About 9.5 seconds of it. And this arousal just kind of continues. This is all wake brainwave, so we'll call it wake, 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 wake. Actually, let me go back. Yeah, I think sleep starts right around here. Alright. It's pretty debatable, but I think it starts here. It's free the consistency of all the brain waves anyways, they kind of drop off right here. So this would be wake. And then we have, looks like an arousal here, and this would be 2 with the spindle here. Oh no, a loading bar. Come on, baby. There we go. That was weird. Good arousal there. Yeah. But I don't think this is 2. Still jumping the gun a little bit on your stage 2. Keep it in 1. And then 2 starts here. So I think this is a majority of this is, well, let's measure this. We've got 8.59 seconds and 6.5. Yeah, and 7.5. So this would be 2. 2. Yep, 2. Good. 2, 2. No arousal there. If there's anything, it's from there to there, which is 2.5 seconds. 2, 2. Good arousal here. I think that's where it lands. 2. And then to 1. Lots of arousals in this one. 2, 1, 1. Still kind of jumping the gun with your stage 2s here. However, there's a little spindle on this one, so I'll call it 2. This would be 1, which you have. And I don't think this is an arousal. I think there's a little spindle here. Going into 2. And then no arousal here either. Just a little bit messy. Some artifact, but no high frequency. So keep it in 2, 2. No arousal here, but I do think there's an arousal there. This would be 1, since this arousal, no K complexes or spindles. And then a spindle there for 2. Spindle here for 2, and then wake. And this is when you did PAP. And then it looks like they fell back asleep somewhere around here. And you have stage 1 here, which is very similar to some stuff I was seeing back here. I think this is stage 1, so I'm going to mark this as 1. With an arousal here. Very, very slight, but if you can see the difference between this side and this side, that is what you're looking for. That just a slight change in frequency that makes it a little bit more consistent high frequency over here and a little bit more consistent mixed frequency over here. And then a little bit of sleep from there to there, but just barely. Let's see, I'll go back and show you. Just so you can get a little bit of an idea. Call it wake. wake, 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 and then one, which you have, so good. So maybe you just missed, one or two epics in there, which is perfectly fine. They were really hard to see anyways. Good arousal. This is all solid right here. Very solid. Oop. I don't think that's an arousal there. Same here. Same here. Just like this is a big K complex after this K complex. And same here. Big K complex, nothing really going on if you compare these brain waves, which you marked an arousal with, to these brain waves. It's about the same. Yeah, just low amplitude, mixed frequency. And then there's a spindle right here. And then it just lasts a little bit longer in these F channels. So I don't think there's anything there. Okay, yeah, this part looks pretty solid. I wouldn't call this 3. I don't think this is 3. Just keep it in 2. And then no arousal here. There's artifact here and artifact here. Um, and then like lingering artifact after it. It kind of does this weird thing. So, and then no arousal here. This is a K complex, kind of a messy one. And I think these are still stage 2 brain waves here. Yeah, still stage 2 brain waves here. So even though they're touching, they got to be a half second long, which is about, it's as short as you can make a little click on here. So see how this one it goes up and then down. It's just not long enough. It's kind of the same for all of these that are touching. It just is not quite long enough for stage 3. This one would be, so that's 1, but that's only 1 in this whole epic. So we'll just keep this one in stage 2. No arousal. And no arousal. Yeah, and I keep that all in stage 2. No arousal here. No arousal here. And no arousal here. And if there is, this looks like it could be an arousal, but it's right here. See where the frequency gets really tight in here? It has a little bit of a break right here, but overall it's pretty consistent. So 2, 2, 2, 2, and yeah, still 2, 2, and I keep this in 2 as well. 2, no arousal here. Those look like more like delta waves, right? So that is 3 seconds of delta waves there. Got one there that lasts just a little bit longer than 0.5 seconds. You got one here that's right around 0.5 seconds. One right there and one right there. So, but I still don't think it's enough to mark stage 3. No arousal here. Remember, when marking your arousals, you're looking for high frequency, not low frequency. This is low frequency brain waves right here. This is more like delta stage 3 brain waves, whereas arousals are going to be really, really tight. And this is like, see how big this brain wave is? Boom, 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 boom. Same up in here. You got really, really big brain waves going on. Versus over here, it's all super tight. You know, that's kind of the stage 1 mixed frequency, but still, that's what you're looking for arousals. Is are the brain waves going really fast? So same here. You got some bigger brain waves going on. Maybe a little bit of high frequency there, and high frequency there, and high frequency there, but just not quite enough to mark an arousal. And this is a K complex here. And this, I see maybe an arousal from there to there. It's a lot tighter. So I probably would call that one, but it would stay in stage 2. And a little spindle there, a little spindle here, so no arousal. It is higher frequency, so that makes a little bit more sense why you might mark something like that, but it's mostly a spindle. Otherwise, you'd be marking all of these as arousals. Right here. This, good, that's a great arousal. Sorry, I'm drinking water. Ah. No arousal here. And here we do have an arousal. I think it stops a little bit sooner than that, but we'll keep it in 2. And then we've got stage 1 good, stage 1 good, 2 good. Yeah, that was a good little transition. You weren't too happy on that one. Stage 2 happy. Maybe you were happy marking this study. No arousal here. No arousal there. So this would stay in 2. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And Again, more K complexes, and then same here, more K complexes. And there we go, there's a little arousal. I would I would change this to 1. We've got low amplitude mixed frequency, no K complexes, no spindles. And then here's our K complex here, so we'll change this. No arousal, keep it in 2. Little arousal here, and no arousal here. So this would stay in 2. The next one is going to be, could be 1, and it is 1, and then 1 again, still no K complexes or spindles. If we go back to that arousal here, this one was 2, the next one, no K complexes, no spindles, so 1. Again here, no K complexes, no spindles, so 1. And then again, you have, I think this arousal is actually here, because this is a K complex. Okay, so this would change this to 1. And then just barely a K complex right here, above baseline, below baseline. So we'll call it 2. No arousal here. Again, I'm kind of wondering if you're going back in and looking at these hypopneas to see if you missed something. It might be messing you up by doing that, because there might be nothing that you're missing, or maybe you did think it was an arousal. I'm not sure exactly. Sometimes it's good to go back in and see, oh, did I miss something? But don't, if you go back in, don't force there to be something just because there's a hypopnea there. You really want to see that high frequency like we're looking at now. Okay. I think maybe you were just 1 off on this, which is really good. So we have wake. I think this one is still wake up until about here. If we scroll just a little bit. It's all very high frequency, so I'm going to call this wake. I'd actually probably call this one wake a little bit too. I could be wrong. Actually, this is probably 1. These brainwaves aren't very pretty, but I think you're right with this being 1. Or you call it 2. This is definitely 1. No K complexes or spindles here. 1. And then maybe a spindle here for 2. This is a tricky one because I think the arousal ends. I think the arousal is from there to there. Then you have a straight up a K complex right after an arousal, which seems to be the case with this guy. He seems to have those. So I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, hold on 1 second. My computer is dying. I'm gonna plug it in real quick. Okay. So this would be 2 with another little arousal there. His arousals seem to be very low amplitude, but they're still high frequency, so that counts. So the rule for arousals is an abrupt shift in frequency consisting of alpha brainwaves or higher. So that's 7 to 13 hertz or higher. Good. I think this arousal is more right there, which would keep it in 2 because the majority of the epic was 2. But the way that you had it, this would be stage 1 because the majority of this epic would be stage 1 versus stage 2. So the way I'll keep it in 2 because of the way that I think the arousal is. Here's a K complex. You don't want to include K complexes in your arousals. Good arousal here, by the way. That's kind of a sneaky one. No arousal there. Just a K complex. This one I think is just artifact. Just a little bit of artifact going on right there. And that's a K complex. And I think this is artifact here, and then 2 little blips of artifact here and here, and then a spindle here. So I don't think this is an arousal. I think this is nothing. Keep it in 2. And again, this looks like a spindle. His arousals are low amplitude. It seems like you got to score and stage based on the patient sometimes. And everyone's brainwaves are a little different. And no arousal there. And no arousal there. One, two, two. And we got a little arousal there. I think it's actually from there to there after all the K complex stuff. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And then 2, yep, 2. And good arousal there to 1. This would be 1. And I think maybe another arousal here. It's a bit sneaky. But if you can see that. And then 1 again, good arousal. And then a K complex here. 2, 2. I think there is an arousal here after the K complexes. Looks like that, and then a little bit more right there, but I don't think this is, it's about 5 seconds there, so call this 1. And another here for 1. Oh no. Yeah, for 1. This K complex doesn't count since it's associated with the arousal. So all of this is stage 1 up until the arousal here. And then after it is also stage 1. 1. An arousal. And stage 1 still. Stage 1 still. And then back here is spindle, spindle. So we'll call this stage 2. Actually, this looks like an arousal right here, and I almost missed it. So 1, 1, and then a spindle maybe for 2. And that is just a messy K right there for 2. 2. An arousal here, no arousal here. This is a spindle. So This is a good epic to show you the difference between his arousals and his spindles. The spindles kind of stand out like a caterpillar or something, like a roly poly. You know, they get big and then they get small. Where the arousals, his arousals seem to be a little bit lower amplitude, and it's tighter. Whereas the stage one is kind of open and sporadic. So no arousal here, no arousal here. Again, this is a spindle, maybe close to a K complex there. No arousal here. And that's 3 seconds. Yep. All right. Good enough. 2, 2. No arousal here. No arousal here. And I think maybe you're right, but I think it's right there. And same sort of deal here. 1. This would change to 1, 2, 2, 2. Good, with good arousals there. And then 1 here. Good. And then 1 here as well. A little bit of an arousal going on right there. And then 1. Then an arousal here for 1, 2, 2, 2. Good arousal. I think I would drag it just a little bit shorter here. 2, 2, 2, and 2. I think you're right. That's the arousal. 2, and then spindle 2. Good. 2, 2. Good arousal. But this would drop back to 1. And then 1 again until maybe about there for a spindle. 2. Then back to 1. 1. Good. 2. The spindle. I think this is an arousal here. 2, 2. Good arousal. I think this would be, yep, 2. Good. And then 1. Good. That was really good. This little section you did here, you had 2, 2 arousal, 1, 2, which is good. So I think the arousal's here. Remember, this is K complex. Just because it looks messy doesn't mean it's an arousal. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. No arousal here. That one's tricky. I think it does get a little bit darker, but I don't think there's anything going on there. 2, good arousal. 2, good staging. 2, 2, 2. And this is some K complexes, so no arousal here. Just kind of take that in for a second, as you've been marking quite a few of these. So mark less arousals over big messes, and mark more arousals over high frequency, because this is actually low frequency, and that doesn't constitute as an arousal. And you have an arousal here, but a K complex all the way over here. So I'm going to change this to 1, because this is where 2 starts. and then 2 here. And then back to 1, good. And then 2 starts here, so I'm going to keep this in 1 as well. And then 2, 2, 2. No arousal here. 2. No arousal here. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. There we go. An arousal there. We got 1. Arousal here. 1. Arousal here. Let's see. For 2. Nope. 1 still. 1. And I think this is wake. Wake. And 1. This is getting tricky. No arousal there. No arousal here. 1. Got an arousal here. For 1. 1. This could all be wake actually. Wake, 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 wake. Yeah. This is all still very high frequency compared to what we're seeing over here. So you have 1, 1, and this big arousal. This is where the frequency changes. If you compare this to this, you can see it's a lot higher frequency. So I will call this one wake, and it doesn't really change. You get like maybe a little blip in here, maybe a little blip in here, like he's like kind of dozing. Excuse me, dozing off or something. This would be wake. And then like these weird K complex type things are bleeding through. I think it's still wake though. And wake, wake, wake. There's no real mixed frequency here. So I think he's just dozing. And then here it starts to drop off again a little bit. I think this would be 1. And then REM, yeah. Wow. How about that? And good arousal there. REM, 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 REM. Good arousal. REM. Yeah. Nope, no chin tone there. You need chin tone to mark an arousal in REM. REM, REM. I don't think this is, if there's anything, it's like from there to there, or there. So we call this one REM, REM, REM. No arousal here, just messy artifact. Wake, 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 wake. 1. Okay, so I think, okay, so if we go back, this is wake. We're going to keep it in wake here. It's all still, even though it's low amplitude, it is not quite mixed frequency. Maybe a little bit of mixed frequency right there, but that's about it. And same here, no mixed frequency. Same here, no mixed frequency. And then we have REM again. Just really weird. I think this is movement in REM. I think this is REM, 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 REM. Again, here, a lot of movement in REM. REM, 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 REM. Wake, one, 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 arousal again, REM. Good. Good retro scoring there. No eye movements, no REM. And then lights on. Good. Let's take a look at the breathing here. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Very good place to start. Let's get to the sleep. I'm just cruising through here. Okay. So here, not much of a decrease. I don't think that's a hypopnea. And then same here, same here. There's no real decrease in flow. And I'm looking in the CAN flow for hypopneas, just as a reminder. Now these, I think these are probably ones you marked with arousals that aren't arousals. And then this one I don't think I would mark. However, this one I would. So I want you to see the difference in the decrease. See how this is a decent drop, whereas there's no real drop here. It's all like you have this recovery breath, but there's no decrease in airflow. It's all baseline, right? And then you have an increase in airflow during the arousal, but then it drops back down to baseline. So this one does decrease, however, so I will keep this one. And good here, but there's no arousal, there's no DSAT for that. And then that is only one breath. And so I do not think that this is long enough. 8 seconds from there to there. 7 seconds, 8 seconds. And then no arousal, we probably took it out. And then no arousal, probably took it out. And again, no arousal, no arousal, no arousal, no arousal, no arousal, no arousal. No arousal. I could be saying no arousal or DSAT. It, it qualifies for both. This one I would mark, so good job there. This one I would not mark. I don't think there's a real decrease in flow compared to baseline. So compare this one right here with this right here. There's nothing really happening here. And there is definitely something happening here. There's like a flat top, flat top, flat top. So there's reduced breathing. Whereas here, you kind of have increased respiration and then back to baseline and then increased again. There's nothing happening here. There's nothing happening in the belts. So nothing here. And this one is kind of happening right on top of that arousal. It's not quite long enough. I wouldn't call that anything. So I definitely think you're overscoring hypopneas. Um, that might be something to focus on. So you're seeing a lot of things that aren't really there. Same here, nothing there. Again, nothing here, nothing here. This, however, looks like it can be marked as an obstructive. I think we need to increase our belts a little bit. Oh, maybe not. As a central. And I think this one you can mark as a hypopnea, and this one as well, with the DSAT. And this one you could have marked as well. Um, that's reduced breathing. If you increase this a little bit, you can kind of see it a little bit better. And this one's happening right on top of an arousal, so I would delete this. Always trust your staging. There's a good one. Did I miss this one? Let's see here. This one I don't think is a hypopnea. Nothing really going on. It is a little bit weird breathing, but like you would mark this if anything, and it's not close enough to that arousal. Yep, there's a good one. And no arousal there, and nothing going on there. But these are correct. This one could even be marked as an obstructive with you have a bump here, a bump here, a bump here, so there's still enough effort to mark an obstruction. However, it's coming right after wake, so we gotta take this out as the first unmarkable one, and this is the second, so we can't mark either of them really. But you can mark this one. And this one is not that long. We're looking right in here and see the belts to kind of they all kind of react together. Oh, this one. This could almost be a hypopnea here as well. And this is right in wake, so I won't mark that. And this one here, you see this is kind of some baseline breathing, and then it starts getting wonky in here. So that's where I'd mark that. There's nothing going on there. And that's during an arousal. This would be something if there was an arousal or a DSAT, but there is not. Nothing here. Nothing here. There is something here. And nothing here. And this is happening, this is right here, and it's happening during an arousal. So I'm going to mark that. That one is the same way. And this is happening during an arousal. And this is right after wake. There's nothing happening here. So after an arousal, you skip one, skip two, score the third. So this is the one you can mark if it's long enough, and it is. Just barely. See those two breaths, decrease in flow versus what you marked over here. There is absolutely nothing going on over here, and over here is that decrease in flow. And then these would be able to be marked, but you have that arousal and then this arousal. And then nothing happening here. Nothing happening here. Nothing happening here. There is something happening here, but it's right after that arousal, so you can't mark it. And there we go, there's one. And then that's almost one, but it's not real any reduced flow. And this is right during wake, so I won't mark that one. And then here there's no arousal or desat, so we can't mark that one. And then nothing happening here. And then this is after an arousal, so can't mark the first one, can't mark the second one. The third one is during wake, so. And same deal, arousal, and then nothing there. It's just not reduced flow. It's like normal. There's no reduction there, that's baseline. And then that, nothing there, it's after an arousal. There is something a little bit here, right there. For that desat, we can mark that. And then you came in and put them on. And then can't mark the first one, can't mark the second one because of the wake. Actually, wait a minute. Ah. Okay. Okay. I jumped way far ahead and skipped a bit. Alright, so this looks very central. So yeah, you have a pocket of central right in here that's about 9 seconds. Can't mark it though because it's right after wake. And then this one, you have reduced flow for a central hypopnea. So if I were to increase the snore a little bit, make sure there's no snore. There isn't any flat tops here. It's all very smooth, you know. This is a big round breath. Nothing sketchy about this breath. It's all around. And then the recovery breaths aren't really recovery breaths. They're just like back to normal, right? That is what a central hypopnea looks like. So we'll carry on. And then here, this is let me increase this and show you. This is a cutoff breath right here. See how it is not like smooth, like this is this is kind of pointy, but it's not cut off. So this would actually be a hypopnea. This would be, I'm not sure why you're marking these as central apneas. There's still plenty of flow. And to mark an apnea, you need 90% reduction in flow. So keep that in mind. I know it is probably after an hour and a half of listening to me with this study. It's This is important though because you still have flow. You can't mark an apnea when there's still flow. So this is a hypopnea, whether it's central or obstructive hypopnea. It is not an apnea, and that's something that I've noticed that you've been marking as well. So I think I would call that a central hypopnea, and saying here central hypopnea. This correctly placed, it is essential because there is no flow. You see the difference between um, this and, and this, which you also marked, or even this. There's still flow in here. So there is not 10 seconds of, this is only 7.5 seconds of a central apnea. And if you're marking the whole event, it's right there. So that would be a central hypopnea because you still have one big old breath. And same with this one. The only central in this is about 8 seconds. So you have to look at it as a whole and mark the whole thing. So you still have two little blips. For me, that's still not enough to mark a central. This is still a central hypopnea. This one, however, completely flat, you know. Um, this one's long enough. See, I included this breath in the central hypopnea, and, whereas this, it just barely doesn't have much going on. Maybe that blip would be the barely 90%, but it's 90% throughout the entire reduced uh, cessation of airflow. So this would stay central, and I would change this to hypopnea. And I do think that these are central hypopneas here. Come on, computer. And that's after an arousal, so we won't mark that. But this is not. Is this long enough? Oh, just barely. And then these are central. Okay, so I'm not sure where this milliliter is coming from in your comments, but it is centimeters of CPAP. And instead of adjust, type in INCR for increase. So it should say increase to CPAP 5 centimeters. Oops, you had it right. increase CPAP 5 centimeters. This is essential, this is essential. Yeah, this one actually you can mark as essential apnea, but this is central hypopnea. So just kind of notice the difference there. This is a flat line in the flow, so you can mark it as an apnea. There's no effort, so it is a central apnea. Just taking this out. No DSAT, no arousal. No DSAT, no arousal. This is after an arousal. This one I would mark from here to here. And not really any change going on right there. No DSAT, no arousal. Central hypopnea, central hypopnea. Central, no DSAT, no arousal. This is after an arousal. This one is a central hypopnea, and this one's a central hypopnea. And when marking your apneas, it goes from the first reduced breath until the first recovery breath or normal breath. So I'm not sure where the first reduced breath is on this. You thought this breath was reduced? And then same here, I don't even know where the reduced breath is. If anything, it's from there to there, which is a little too far for the arousal. Nothing there. There we go. So we don't mark the first one after an arousal, don't mark the second one. Well, there's nothing here actually, so we wouldn't mark it anyways. Again, we wouldn't mark the first one. This one doesn't have an arousal before it or anything that would, or wake before it, so we can mark this one and we can mark this one, but we can't mark that one. No arousal, there's not really any reduced breaths going on in there either. I see what you're seeing, like it looks funny from there to there, but there's not an actual reduction. Same here. Same here. And then this is centimeters. And then here we've got one. This one could almost be a central, but not quite. Just a hypopnea. This one's like right in the middle of an arousal, and same with that one. two arousals smushed together, it wouldn't mark anything there. Same with that one, you got this big old arousal right here. You don't want to mark it right in the middle of the arousal. And no arousal, no DSAT. This one's after an arousal. This one doesn't have an arousal or a DSAT. And here we've got central. And that one is happening right in the middle of an arousal, so I wouldn't mark that one. Central hypopnea, I should clarify. This is right after an arousal, and it would be a central apnea, if anything. This one's also after an arousal. This one's after an arousal. This one's on top of an arousal. Nothing going on here. And nothing going on here. This is after an arousal. And this is a central hypopnea. And this you can mark as a just barely a central. And this one is a central hypopnea. Nothing here. Centimeters. Nothing here. Nothing here. This is where there would be an event, but it's right after the arousal. Same with this one. And then this is right through an arousal. This is right through an arousal. No DSAT, no arousal. And now we have REM. With a lot of leg movements in REM. Very interesting. So this event, I'm not sure why you only marked this much of it, when the whole event lasts from about there to there. If you could see my hands, I'm like squinching them up, but like from here to here, you see a decrease in flow. And yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I do think that this is central hypopnea. And then this is during wake. And then that's after an arousal, which you didn't mark anyways. And this is right after wake. That's it. So overall, I think the staging was quite good. I think you're still over marking arousals when there's uh, when it looks messy rather than when it has an actual alpha frequency or higher. And then with hypopneas, you're kind of pulling hypopneas out of the blue. There's a lot of hypopneas that you marked where there's nothing there at all. So just keep an eye out on those things. But other than that, this is a good study, and I'll see you for the next one.